friends, hope you're doing well. In today's video I'm going to be showing you guys how to make this hearts and roses cardigan. You can customize it any way that you want, any size that you want, the sleeves, the length. Mine is just a little bit on the crop side. It's not too cropped, it's just a little bit on the crop side. Okay, so I'm just going to be showing you guys how I made it. You can make yours bigger, longer, more oversized. Yeah, so this is what it looks like. You can make the sleeves longer, more puffier, whichever way you want to make it. So I'm just going to, like I said, show you guys how to make it. I know it's been so long since I recorded a tutorial or video and I don't know what to do anymore, so bear with me. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Make sure you subscribe to the notification bell. I'm going to try as much as I can to be consistent. If you're an old subscriber, I know it's been a while since I posted. I'm going to try to be consistent, like I said. Yeah, I hope you guys like the tutorial. If you have any questions, you can leave them down in the comment section. I'm going to leave the link of all my social media names, accounts, links. I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to leave that down below. Also, I'm changing the name of the channel as well. Right, this is an important thing. I am changing the name of my channel. I'm just going to put it Vanessa Crochets, and it's not going to be Servant Crochet again, because, well, part of the reason why I've not been crocheting much is because I have been trying to spend time with God a lot, and it's been like a conviction of mine to change the name. And I'm no longer doing like heavy crochet business the way I used to. I mean, I could still sell, but it's not in the way. Like if I make something, I'll sell it. I don't know if I still want to do like bulk orders like the way I used to. So yeah, we'll see what God does for me in this 2025. This is my first official video of the year 2025. I hope you guys like it. No, this will be my second. The first one will be the vlog of this cardigan. Make sure you watch the vlog, and the second it will be this one. Yeah, so make sure you subscribe. I hope God blesses you. I hope you guys should keep praying. Pray to Jesus as much as you can in whatever you're going through. Pray to him, ask him for help. I'm a Christian, by the way. I am a Christian, so you're going to be hearing me talk about my faith either in movies, podcasts, opinions. You're going to hear it on the channel, because yeah, I'm stepping out and speaking about my faith. Yeah, I wasn't hiding it intentionally, but I used to be that person that firmly believed that like business and God cannot be in the same thing, you know. But this talent that I have, this skill that I have, is God that gave me, so why not glorify him in it? Yeah, so this is, yeah, I don't know. This is the intro, I guess. Let's just get started. I'll show you guys the materials, like how you do stuff and all of that. So without further ado, let's get right into the tutorial. Right, for the materials, you're going to need your yarn, your crochet hook. I'm using a 3.5. Now for the yarn, I'm using this. I believe this is 5-ply. Please correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section. But it basically has like 5 twists in the yarn, okay? Then you're going to need a crochet hook, scissors, measuring tape, stitch markers, a darning needle, and buttons. Obviously, it's optional. So each of my squares measured about 4 inches. So we are going to get started with the heart square, the heart granny square, and you just need the white and the red yarn to start, and we are going to start with the red yarn. So start off by making a magic ring. Go ahead and make a magic ring. If you don't know how to make a magic ring, I think there are a lot of tutorials to show how you make it, or you can slow down this video to see how I made mine. Okay, so you're going to chain 3, and that chain 3 is going to count as a stitch, and into the magic ring you're going to make 2 double crochets into the magic ring. So we have a granny stitch right there, or a cluster. Then you're going to chain 2, and into the magic ring again you're going to put 3 double crochets like you see me do right there. You're going to chain 2 into the magic ring, do another 3 double crochets into the magic ring. So this is like the start of, like, this is basically a granny stitch, okay? And this is just the beginning. This is row 1. So make another chain 2. Then this is the last cluster of granny squares we're going to make. We need 4, so do another 3 double crochets into the center of the magic ring. So this is what you have. You have 4 chain 2 spaces and 4 clusters of granny squares. Then you're going to use the long end in the middle and pull it so it closes shut. Then go into the 3rd stitch from the chain 3 we had at the beginning. Chain 2, then go into that 3rd stitch, okay? Chain 2, then go into the chain stitch and slip stitch to join the row, and this is the start of our heart. Right, to continue, we are going to slip stitch into the middle stitch right there, into basically the next stitch, the next stitch of the round. Okay, that middle stitch of the granny stitch. Yeah, then you're going to chain 1, then into the first chain 2 space you're going to insert 8 double crochets into that chain 2, into the chain 2 space at the corner. And this is like a shell, by the way. This is row 2, we are starting row 2. 8 double crochets like you see me do. Now you're going to chain 1, and then into the next corner you're going to put a single crochet into that next corner, chain 1 again, and then into the middle stitch that's directly opposite that middle stitch that we slip stitch into, you're going to put 2 single crochets, chain 2, and 2 single crochets into that same middle stitch that's directly opposite. This is going to be like the sharp bottom of our hat. Then you're going to chain 1, and into the next chain 2 space you're going to do a single crochet. We are now doing like the reverse. Then you're going to chain 1 again, and into the next chain 2 space you're going to put 8 double crochets into that chain 2 space. As you can see, the 8 double crochets form like that curved part of the hat. Then at the bottom we had 2 single crochets, chain 2, 2 single crochets to make the bottom. Okay, so this is how it's looking like right now. Then you're going to chain 1, then back into that middle stitch you're just going to slip stitch to join everything together, chain 1 to secure, and then you are going to cut off your yarn like so. And this is our hat already. This is how it's looking like. As you can see, it matches the heart on the granny square. Now you're going to get your white yarn, and we are going to start from the bottom of the square like so. Now insert your hook into the chain 2 space at the bottom, get your white yarn or whatever color you're using, make a slip knot, and then you're going to pull it through the chain 2 space there, chain 1 to secure. And now we are going to be working in the back loops only for row number 3. This is row number 3. We're working the back loops only. So into the next stitch you're going to make a single crochet, the following stitch a half double crochet, the next stitch a double crochet. Remember, we're working only in the back loops only. This is just so that the heart can pop properly. Okay, it can look like an actual heart. And then in the 4th stitch you're going to make a treble crochet like you just saw me do. Then you're going to chain 2. In the next stitch you're going to have a double crochet. In the next stitch you're going to have a half double crochet, and in the next 4 stitches you're going to have 4 single crochets. Okay, 4 single crochets in the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is what your work should look like. So that's a corner we just made. Now chain 2, we're going to make another corner, and then you're going to make another 4 single crochets at the top part of our hat. Remember, we are still working in the back loops only, so that's 3 and 4 in the next 4 stitches. So that's another corner. That's our second corner. You can pull it out so you can see. Then you're going to work into the middle stitch. Okay, I just want you to see how I'm counting the corners. Now for that middle part you're going to do a half double crochet, go down into the very first row and do a half double crochet into that middle stitch of the first row to make the heart more prominent. Then we are going to start working backwards again, which is 4 double crochets like you see me do right now. 4 double crochets, and this is the 4th one. Then you're going to chain 2 for a corner, and into the next stitch you're going to have 4 double crochets. Remember, we are repeating what we did on the other side. We're just mirroring it as the 3rd, the 4th one. And then you're going to continue with 1 half double crochet, 1 double crochet. Okay, like so. Then we're going to make the other corner, so we're going to chain 2, and into the next stitch you're going to make a treble stitch. Into the next stitch you do a treble double crochet, like a treble stitch. Yeah, then you're going to make a double crochet in the next stitch, a
half a double crochet in the next stitch. That was a half double crochet. I made a double crochet, a half double crochet, and the last stitch you should end it up with a single crochet. Okay, you might probably have to dig in, so you end it with a single crochet, and this completes row number 3. So you just slip stitch to join with the chain 1 that you had at the beginning, and yeah, row number 3 is done. We are going to go on to row number 4 right now. Okay, so I'm just going to pull the corner so you can see how it looks. This is our square already. Okay, make sure you don't skip any stitches. This is what it looks like. And to continue, we are still working from the bottom. You're going to go ahead and you are going to chain 3 to start the row, and into that same chains, into that space, you're going to put 2 double crochet. Remember, all chain 3s count as stitches. Okay, so I'm going to put 2 double crochets into that same spot where the chain 3 is coming out from. Then I'm going to chain 1, and into the chain 2 space or the corner, I'm just going to go ahead and make a corner stitch, which is 3 double crochets into the chain 2 space, chain 2, then 3 double crochets into that same chain 2 space. So this is like the basic corner of a granny square. Yeah, then you're going to chain 1 and you're going to count 4 stitches, the double crochet, the half double crochet, and 2 of the single crochets into that second single crochet there. I beg your pardon. You're going to put 3 double crochets in there. I'm just counting so you guys can see. Okay, so I'm going to put 3 double crochets into that second single crochet, and I just want to show you guys that we have 1, 2, 3 single crochets left, which we are going to mirror it on the other side. Okay, from the top to the side on the other side is going to be 3 single crochets, not 4. I'll show you guys what I mean. So chain 2, then into the next chain 2 space at the corner, you do a corner stitch, which is 3 double crochets into the chain 2 space, chain 2, and 3 double crochets into that same chain 2 space. Okay, now you're going to chain 1, and into that middle stitch, the half double crochet right there, you're going to put 3 double crochets in there, just a regular granny stitch. And if you take note, because my yarn is a little bit on the bulky side, I'm really crocheting loosely. All right, so 3 double crochets into that middle stitch, chain 1, and into the next corner, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets again into the same space. Now this is what I was saying about mirroring the other side. Now we are going to count 3 stitches. Remember, it was 3 single crochet, so I'm going to count up to the 3rd single crochet, chain 1, and into that 3rd single crochet you're going to put 3 double crochets right there, like so, chain 1, and into the next and last corner stitch we're going to put 3 single crochets, and we are going to do like a granny corner, 3 single crochets, chain 2, and 3 single crochets. Then you're just going to chain 1 when you're done, and you're going to slip stitch to join with the chain 3 at the beginning of the row. So this completes row number 4 of our heart. Slip stitch to join, like so. And yeah, this is what your square is supposed to be looking like, nice and cute. Next we are going to do another round, which is row 5 of our granny square. Row 5, you're going to start off by chaining 3. Remember, chain 3 counts as a stitch, and into that chain 1 space right there I am going to do 2 more double crochets to make a cluster of 3, chain 1, and into the next chain 1 space I am going to do 3 double crochets in there till we get to the corner. And you know what we do in the corner, we do 3 stitches in the corner, chain 2, and another 3 stitches in the corner, okay, to make the corner stitch into that same chain 2 space. Yeah, then you're going to chain 1 and you're going to repeat the pattern until you get back to the beginning of your work. This is what it's supposed to look like. So go ahead and chain 1 and slip stitch to the beginning of your row to complete the row, then chain 1 to secure and cut off your yarn. Somehow I managed to lose my scissors all the time, so I literally use anything at this point to cut off yarn, so no, nobody judging here. Okay, so I'm just pulling out the corner so you guys can see how it looks like. Now if you want your square a little bit bigger, you can do another round. So mine was about 4 inches. You could stretch your squares out on a granny blocking board if you want to, all of that depends on you. So this is the measurements. Stretched out, it'll be like 4.5 inch. Okay, so I'm just trying to stretch it out. It'll be about 4.5 inches. Okay, so I made a total of 28 of the heart granny squares. You can make more depending on how big or oversized you want your cardigan to be or how long you want it, but I did a total of 28 for my size, which is like a size small and medium. So now let's get into making our rows. So we are going to start off our rows the way we started off our granny square. Yeah, we're going to make a magic ring, and into that and you're going to chain 3. Chain 3 counts as a stitch, and into that magic ring you are going to make a total of 15 double crochets into that magic ring, so that our magic ring is going to have 16 double crochets. So this is what your magic ring is supposed to be looking like right now. So go ahead and make sure you count your stitches. So I have 15. I'm just making the 16th one. Then I'm going to pull that middle string right there nice and tight to make sure it's shut, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the third stitch, the third chain that we made at the beginning. Yeah, just slip stitch to join the row to make a circle like this. Right, so slip stitch to join. So this is row 1, and for row 2 you are going to chain 1, and into that same stitch right there that you slip stitch in, you're going to make a single crochet. Now we are going to chain 3. Remember, this is row 2. Skip 1 stitch, and in the next stitch you're going to make a single crochet. Repeat, chain 3, skip 1 stitch, and into the next stitch make a single crochet, and you're going to repeat this pattern until you get back to the beginning. So I'm just skipping 1 stitch and going into the next stitch after I chain 3. Now this is what your work should be looking like. I'm left with 1 stitch to skip, so I'm just going to go ahead and chain 3. Then I'm going to slip stitch into the single crochet I had from the beginning, like so. And that completes row number 2. So row number 2, you should have a total of 8 rings, okay? 8 chain 3 spaces, yeah? Then you are going to start row number 3. You're going to chain 1, and you're going to basically slip stitch or single crochet into the first loop that you have right there. So I'm just showing you guys like the loops, okay? Those are the chain 3 spaces or loops. We're going to call them loops in this video. Yeah, you're supposed to have 8 of them. So what we are going to do now is to create the petals, the first group of petals. So now that we've got a single crochet into the first chain, the first loop, into the next loop you're just going to go ahead and put 6 double crochets into the first loop to create our first petal. So that is our 6th petal right there. Into the next loop you're going to do a single crochet. So you're going to have a single crochet, petal, single crochet. Then into the next chain, into the next loop, you're going to do another 6 double crochet to make a petal. Then into the next loop, a single crochet. So at the end of your work you're supposed to have a total of 4 visible petals. Yeah, so just go ahead and follow this pattern till we get to the end. Now you can see I've got my 4 petals. Yeah, I'm just going to slip stitch into the single crochet or the slip stitch, whichever one you made, at the beginning of the round, like so. You're going to do that. You're just going to slip stitch to join the row together, and that completes row number 3. Now for row number 4, I am going to ask you guys to pay attention to what I'm doing. So if you've done front and back post double crochet, it's a little bit similar. So go ahead and chain 1, and you are going to insert your hook, yeah, from the back of the petal to the front. Wrap it around the single crochet from the previous row. Yeah, see the motions I'm making with my hand. Pull it out, and then you are going to make a single crochet. I'm going to repeat it. So just chain 3 when you've done your first single crochet. Chain 3, then it's like you're making a back post double crochet. You're going from the back to the front, then back to the back to pull up a loop. Okay, then you're making a single crochet, then you're chaining 3. So repeat these motions of going back and forth. You're going from the back to the front, then you're pulling a loop, then you're doing a single crochet and you're chaining 3, and you continue like this until you're going to have a total of 8 loops at the back of your rows. Okay, I'm going to meet you when I am done. Right, so right now I'm on my last loop. chain 3, and then into the very first single crochet you are going to slip stitch to join. Okay, so like I said, you should have a total of 8 single crochets right there. So we are going to start row 5, and row 5 is basically petals. So you're just going to chain 1 here, and you're going to go into the very first loop, right there. Okay, so I'm just showing you guys how it looks. You're going to go into the very first loop right there, and you are going to make 8 double crochets into that loop. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 double crochet. That's a petal. Then you're going to into the next loop. Just make sure that it is overlapping with the first petal. Okay, they should not be aligned. Into the next loop, do a single crochet. Then as you can see, I'm just showing you guys that the loops and the petals, they should like alternate. Okay, the petals from the previous row and this row, they should not be like falling like in the same place. I don't know if you understand what I mean. Like they should overlap, they should not be like in sync. Hopefully that makes sense. So 8 double crochets into the next one, and into the next loop, single crochet. Repeat the same pattern of 8 double crochet and a single crochet, and you should be done with a total of 4 petals of 8 double crochets this time. End with a single crochet. So I'm just showing you guys what I mean by overlap. Okay, make sure that they are like in the middle. Yeah, I think that's a better way to describe it, in the middle. Okay, now you're just going to slip stitch to join like so, and this is what we should have right here. Okay, so for row number 6 we are basically going to repeat row number 4, which is the loops. So chain 1, then we are going to do those front post or back post like single crochets that I showed you guys. So do the row number 6 is a repeat of row number 4, do the front post thingy, then chain 3, and you do the next front post single crochet, chain 3, repeat till you get to the end of the row. So you should end up with 8 loops of single crochet, 8 loops of chain 3. Okay, so I'm just going to meet you guys at the end. Now when you get to the end of the row, you're just going to slip stitch into the very first single crochet that you have right there. Okay, into that very first stitch, slip stitch to join, and we are going to have row number 7 now, so that we just completed row number 6. Row number 7, we are going to have row number 7 now. So this is what it should be looking like from the back. Make sure you have 8 loops. Okay, so we're just going to continue. Now to start row number 7, you're going to slip stitch into the very first loop. Yeah, then you're going to chain 1. You can slip stitch or single crochet, whichever one. Okay, then you're going to do 8, chain 1. You're going to do 8 double crochets into that loop. Insert 8 double crochets into that very first loop that you have there. I think that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It'll be a little bit of a tight fit, so just push it back, then chain 1, then you slip stitch into that same loop to create a petal. Okay, the same loop, we're not going to the next one yet. Chain 1, go into the next loop with a slip stitch, chain 1 again, and you're going to do 8 double crochets into that same loop. Okay, now we are going to have individual petals. So since we have 8 loops, we're going to have 8 petals for this row number 7. Remember the previous rows we just had 4 petals each. Now we have 8. So when you have that, you chain 1, slip stitch into that same loop, then chain 1 and go with a slip stitch into the next loop, chain 1, 8 double crochets into that same one. So repeat the same pattern until you get to the end. So I just finished up, I'm just finishing up the last petal right here. Chain 1, slip stitch into that same petal. Then insert 8 double crochets into that same loop, chain 1 and slip stitch into the petal. When you're done, you chain 1 and you slip stitch like you see me do here, and you can go ahead and chain 1, and that is the end of the row. Now we are going to go to the last row. That's it for row 7. For row 8, we are just going to have a repeat of row 4, which is creating the loops. So you start by making the back post double crochet, chain 3, and you're just going to go into each of the single crochet from the previous row and do like a back post single crochet like so, chain 3, do a back post single crochet, and you're going to do this around the entire flower. This is going to be our last row with the red yarn, so just do this until you get to the end. We're going to slip stitch into the first single crochet, then chain 1 and cut off our excess yarn. But for now, I'm just going to meet you guys there at the end. Now we are at the end. I just did my last chain 3. I'm just going to slip stitch into the single crochet at the start right there. Then I'm going to chain 1 to secure, and then I'm going to cut off my yarn. Okay, so this is what we've got. We are done with the main part of our rows. This is what it's looking like. Remember, we had a total of 8 rows for this entire rows. So let's get started on the green color for the leaves. Right, so right now we are going to start working into the loops. So make sure you have 8 loops on your rows. I'm going to grab my green color or whatever secondary color you decided to use for yours. I'm just making a slip knot, and I'm just going to pull it through one of the loops. I'm going to make a chain just to secure, and then I am going to chain 3 more chains. Okay, so this is the first stitch that we are going to have. So as you can see, I'm working with the back of the rows facing me. Okay, so from here on we are using the extended double crochet. So you start off like a double crochet, but instead of pulling through the loops twice, you're pulling through 3 times. I'm going to show you again. So you're going to yarn over like you would when you're starting a double crochet. We are not yarning over twice like a treble crochet. Okay, you yarn over once, insert your hook, put up a loop, pull through the first loop, pull through the second loop, okay, and you pull through the third loop. So I'm just showing you guys what we're not doing there. So what we're doing is, when you pull up a loop, you have 3 loops. Pull through the first loop like so, pull through the next 2 loops and the next 2 loops. Okay, so it's like a treble crochet, but you don't yarn over twice around your hook. You just yarn over like when you start a double crochet, but you're pulling through 3 loops. I just wanted a taller stitch than a double crochet, but I didn't want to go through the motion of wrapping my yarn twice around my hook. I hope that makes sense. So I'm just starting at the corner. I'm starting with the corner granny stitch, which is 3 extended double crochets into the loop, chain 2 and 3 extended double crochets into the same loop to make a corner stitch. Then I'm going to chain 1 into the next loop. I'm going to put 3 extended double crochets into the next loop, and I'm hiding my yarn as I go. So right there we have our next granny stitch. So after a regular granny stitch, we're going to have a corner. Remember, we have 8 loops, so 4 of those loops are going to be a corner stitch, corner granny stitch, then the other 4 are going to be regular granny stitch. So this next loop, I'm going to make a corner stitch, which is 3 extended double crochets into the next loop, chain 2, and then 3 extended double crochets into that same loop. So you can work a regular double crochet. I just didn't want to work a lot of rows, so I decided to make the stitch taller. Okay, I intended to have 1 green row, then 1 white row. Okay, yeah, so you're just going to alternate between the corner granny stitch and the regular granny stitch. So after you've had the corner granny stitch, you're going to have a regular granny stitch. So do that until you get to the start of the row of the green row, which is row number 9. This is row number 9 we're working on, by the way. Right, so here we are at the end of our row. So since we started with a corner stitch, we are going to end the row with a regular granny stitch. So the last loop is just going to be a regular granny stitch right there. So that's the second one, and now this is the third one. I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to slip stitch into the chain 4 at the beginning. Okay, I'm just slip stitching, and then I just cut off the excess yarn that I had. So I'm just slip stitching with the white right away so that I can just join both colors together. Then I am going to pull the green yarn just to make sure it's nice and secure. Make sure everything is nice and secure. You can finish with the green yarn, cut it off, then start over again with the white yarn, whichever method, doesn't matter. Now I'm starting row number 10, which is the white yarn. I'm starting with the chain 4. And now I just turned my work, so I'm going to be working with the right side of the rows facing me. You can work on whichever side you prefer. If you want the rows to be facing like the back side the whole time, it's fine. So I'm just going to, into that stitch, I'm going to put 3 extended double crochet, sorry, with like a normal, granny stitch. Then I am going to chain 1 and I'm going to go into the next chain 1 space, and I am going to make another extended double crochet. Then into the next one, which is a corner stitch, I'm going to make 3 extended double crochets, the corner stitch, which is 3 extended double crochet, chain 2, and into the same chain, this one is a chain 2 space because it's a corner, so chain 2, and then you're going to do another corner, which is 3 treble crochets into the chain 2 space. Now we have a corner right there, so I'm going to chain 1, and into the next chain 1 spaces I am going to do regular extended double crochets. That's a granny stitch extended double crochet, that is 3 extended double crochet into the first chain 1 space, chain 1, and 3 extended double crochets into the next chain 1 space. Then the next corner, I'm just going to do a corner stitch. So I'm just going to repeat the pattern until we go around the entire project, and I'm going to show you guys how it looks like in a minute. Now when you're done, when you're at the end, just chain 1 and slip stitch into the chain 4 at the beginning, sorry. And you chain 1 and you fasten off, and this is what your project should look like essentially. Yeah, so I'm just stretching out the corners so you can see how the square is supposed to look like. So this is a really bulky yarn, so it tends to curl up, but yeah, this is what it's supposed to look like. As you can see, it's about 4.5 inches. So yeah, you can go ahead and put your squares on the blocking board if you want all of them to like have an even size and all of that. So I had a total of 26 of the rows squares, so that's the number of squares we got. Now before I show you guys how everything looks like, let's just go ahead and make the ribbing, that's the cuffs for the hands. Okay, so I ran out of the bulky yarn here, so I'm just using regular yarn and I'm doubling it. For the cuffs, you're just going to chain however long you want your cuff to be. Make sure you measure it around your wrist. In my case, I did 35 chains, and for the cuffs I decided to do front and back post ribbing. You can do a single crochet ribbing, a double crochet ribbing, a half double crochet ribbing, whichever one you want, but I did a front and back post double crochet. So I'm just giving you guys the measurements because I think most of my videos and patterns will be measurement based. I'll try to give you my measurements, but just make sure you do the measurements against your own body. Okay, now I did mine about half an inch longer or quarter an inch longer or bigger, because front post and back post double crochet, since it's a ribbing, it tends to shrink. Okay, so I'm just going to do double crochet down the entire row. So I had 2 extra stitches, went into the 3rd stitch, and I'm doing a double crochet down the entire row. So I'm going to see you guys at the end of that row. Right, so here we are at the end of the row. This is what it's looking like. I'm just going to go into the last stitch right there with a double crochet. Okay, to move to row number 2, you're just going to chain 2, turn your work, and then we are going to do the front and back post double crochets. So front post and back post, you're just yarning over and you're winding your hook from the back to the front of the stitch. You're not going into the stitch, you're basically going around like the stalk of the stitch. I hope you see the motions I'm making right there. This is slower, so that is a back post because our yarn is going from the back to the front, and the front post right here, our crochet hook is going from the front to the back. Okay, so you're just going to do the motions. You can find more in-depth tutorials on how to do front post and back post double crochets on YouTube. So I'm going to continue these motions until I get to the end, and I'm going to meet you guys back. Okay, this is the end of our row. I just chained 1. You can chain 2 as well, whichever one is fine. And you're just going to continue the motion of doing a front and back post double crochet. Where there's a front post, you do a front post, and a back post. When you see the back protruding, you do a back post. So go ahead and continue with your cuff ribbing. And yeah, I'll see you guys at the end. By the way, I did a total of 6 rows. 6 rows of cuff. You can do more, you can do less, depends on how long you want your cuff to be. So I am going to see you guys when I'm done with all the rows. I realized I didn't apologize for filming all of this in a white background, guys. I'm so sorry for filming this in a white background, but I think it's visible. Let me know if it's not really visible. I'll try to change the background in the next video. But yeah, this is the cuff. This is how it looks like. So this is a total of 6 rows. And I believe mine was about 2.5 inches. I think, yeah, 2.5 inches for my cuffs. So I'm just going to sew it because the way I join my cuffs to my sleeves, when I'm going to make the cardigan together, I like to join them when they are closed. So I'm just single crocheting, making sure that the right sides are touching each other. Then I'm single crocheting on the wrong side. I'm going to single crochet the entire cuff shut. Or you can sew it, whichever one you prefer, or slip stitch, whichever one you want to do. Right, we are at the end. By the way, guys, how are you finding the tutorial? Let me know down in the comment section. If it's understandable, I tried to make it as slow as possible, but not too long so it bores you. And I didn't want to make it in like separate parts as well. Tell me what you think about the tutorial in the comment section. So we did the cuffs, and obviously you need to do 2 cuffs. Right, okay, so we do 2 cuffs, and right here I'm just showing you guys how I placed everything. For the front panel, let's start with the back panel. The back panel is 5 by 4, the front panel is 4 by 2, and the sleeves is 3 by 3. Okay, you can go ahead and pause the video or watch it again to see how I placed everything. Right, so that's just what it was looking like. You can go ahead and rewind to see how it looks like. Now I just want to show you guys how to join your squares. Okay, you can place them whatever order that you want. I alternated mine between heart and rose. You can do a full rose sweater or a full heart sweater. It all depends on you. You can fix it however way you want. Okay, it's your sweater, or it's your cardigan, sorry. Yeah, so I just want to show you guys here how I did my sewing. So I got my yarn, threaded it through the needle. Now you don't have to sew, and there's so many methods of joining granny squares online. You can do single crochet, you can do slip stitch, but I decide to sew mine because single crocheting and doing slip stitches, it takes up a lot of yarn. And all these projects that I'm doing, I'm basically trying to finish up the yarn that I already had, my yarn stash, without buying any extra yarn. That's the whole purpose of this project. Yeah, okay, so I'm just sewing. Like, you can do this particular sewing method in whichever direction, but I'm lining up the stitches and I am going front to back using the front loops only on both granny squares. Yeah, you can just do just the front loops, you can do both loops, you can sew both loops, you could try the mattress stitch. Go ahead and check about that in other tutorials. So you can single crochet, you can slip stitch, whichever way you prefer to join your granny squares, you can do that. Now I just want to show you guys how I attach the next squares. Yeah, so I started with like the front panels, and like I said, I was alternating. So when I get to the end, I'm inserting my crochet hook into the chain 2 space for of the granny square on my right, going into the chain 2 space of the new granny square on my right, going into the chain 2 space or the top stitches, the front loops, not just the chain 2 space. Okay, so I'm basically just going around in a circle. Then I'm going to go back into the chain 2 space in the granny square on my right, and then back into the top loop of the new granny square. So that's how I join. I usually sew it lengthwise, like the longest I can go, before sewing the shorter sides. I hope that makes sense. I hope what I'm saying is making sense. Please, if you have any questions, ask them down in the comment section. By the way, at this point, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. I'm going to be coming up with more tutorials, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss it. When you're done sewing all the pieces, this is how your project should look like, and this is what it looks like because I blocked it. But in this next audio, I'm going to tell you guys how I do my sewing. I'm just going to explain where you should sew and how you should sew it.
This is how I normally do my sewing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sew the front and the back panel together first. So I'm going to start from here. You can single crochet or sew, whichever one you want. So you just sew the 2 squares together, match up the squares, sew together at the end here. You do the same for this place. So here, right? Join the the front and the back panel together, so you're going to have this empty middle there, which is fine. And I'm going to put out the sleeves like this, flat on the ground, the way you see it. Then you're just going to fold the sleeves like this, make sure that the right sides are touching each other. Then the middle part of the square, right, which is this loop right here, I'm going to sew it down right here in the middle of this join of the front and back panel. So make sure you place that there. Then this since it's going to be half right there, this is going to probably be here. These edge will probably be in the middle here of this one, then this other one in the middle. I'm going to sew it like that, repeat the same thing, fold it, make sure right sides are touching each other. The middle part of this is attached to the joint here. I'm going to sew it. Then when I'm done sewing the sleeves together, then I'm going to fold like this. It's going to look something like, I really hate all these how do you call it, all these thread hanging out. Who's going to tuck them in? Because I don't know, it's not me. When you sew, it's going to look like this. So when you fold it, it's going to look like that. So let me bring this other one. It's going to look something like this, right? Then you can sew, or oh, my earbuds just fell off. You can sew now from here to here and here to here. Just sew or single crochet, whichever one you want. After sewing, I'm going to attach the cuffs. Okay, so that is what I do. I'm going to attach the cuffs, and yeah, I guess that is everything I wanted to say.
Assuming you got everything from that clip, that was from the vlog I made while I was making this cardigan. But basically, you can see the way I'm just placing everything. The first clip that just passed was the front panel and the back panel joined together, and here I'm just showing you guys like the sleeves, how I'm attaching the sleeves again. I'm showing you guys all of that all over again. Yeah, so it's basically the same thing, but here I'm actually showing you as I finish it. So I'm just going to put in the wrong side, then I'm going to sew, and this is what your work should be looking like when you're done sewing. Yeah, it looks like, I don't know, it looks like roadkill. Yeah, that's what it looks like, I think. I don't know. Yeah, so this is what everything should look like when you're done sewing. And now I'm just going to fold it over, like I said in the previous, in that long explanation, like the vlog explanation. So I'm just going to fold it over like that, and I'm going to sew on the sides that you see me pointing. Yeah, so just sew on those sides, and voila, you are done with the first main part. Yeah, okay, now that I assume you're done stitching everything together, let's sew the cuffs to the sleeves. Let's get right on the table and do this thing. Hopefully you understand what I'm doing, but this is basically cinching the cuffs. Like, usually cuffs are very small and the sleeves are usually big if you're making like oversized type of cardigan, type of thing. Okay, I have a detailed tutorial on the channel, but it's old. Let me know if you want me to do a new one. I'll still post the link down in the description box. Okay, yeah, so you're just going to grab your cuffs here, and you are going to go to the seam, and you're supposed to have like 4 stitch markers, but if you don't have stitch markers, use yarn like me here. Yeah, now you're going to attach the 4 stitch markers or yarn that you have. One, first of all, on the seam, that's the joining of the cuffs. Okay, the next one directly opposite, as you can see, I'm just smoothing it out, directly opposite the seam. Okay, then you're going to open the cuff and you are going to fold it so the 2 places that you've marked are touching each other, so we can find the other midpoints of the cuff. I hope I'm making sense. I hope you can see what I'm doing. This is just how I've done my cuff for my sweaters for years now, and I just find it easier this way, especially when I've got an oversized sleeve and a very tiny cuff. It just works perfectly. And make sure you're doing all these attachments on the bottom side of the cuff, like the part that you want to attach to your sleeve. Yeah, I hope that made sense. To continue, everything that we've done on the cuff, we're going to do on the sleeve. So find the seam on the sleeve and take that stitch marker or thread that is attached to the seam on the cuff, and you're just going to basically link them up, whether you're tying it together or just securing it, whatever you need to do to secure it. Okay, tie them together like so. Yeah, then you're going to find the other midpoint of the sleeve, which is like at the middle of that granny square right there. Yeah, and you're going to insert basically the next marker like that. So what we did to the sleeve, what we did to the cuff, we're doing to the sleeve. Then we are going to open our sleeve. Then we are going to make sure that those 2 points we've attached are touching each other. Make sure you don't lose them. Then we are going to find the next 2 midpoints. So you're just going to grab the stitch and secure it. Then do the same thing on the other side. Please let me know if this is making sense. By the way, I'm going to, by the time I release this video, I'm going to have the pattern of the written pattern of this tutorial. It's going to be on my Etsy, Coffee and Ravelry, so you can go ahead and check out the links in the description box. Okay, so let's get started on sewing. Now, to join, attach or seam your sleeve to your cuff, I just use this motion called less on the cuff, more on the sleeve, because the gap between the sleeve and the cuff is going to be a lot. Like there's going to be probably a lot of sleeve than cuff. Okay, so I just do like this motion called more on the sleeve and less on the cuff. I'm going to explain what I mean. So I'm just attaching the yarn to the cuff, you know, to both the cuff and the sleeve. Yeah, then I'm going to start sewing. Now you can do the single crochet or slip stitch with this method as well, but sewing is just easier for me. So I am going to go into 1 stitch on the cuff, yeah, and 1 stitch on the sleeve. Then I'm going to the next stitch on the sleeve and the same stitch on the cuff. The next stitch on the sleeve and the same stitch on the cuff. So 3 stitches on the cuff, 1 stitch on the sleeve. So this helps to cinch in your work. Hopefully what I'm saying is making sense. So that's why I said more on the sleeve, less on the cuff. More stitches on the sleeve, less on the cuff. Okay, so you can do 3 stitches, 2 stitches, just make sure you alternate. But by the time you get to the next marker, you should be on like even ground on the next marker. Okay, as you can see, I'm showing you guys how the sewing is still nice and neat. It's going to cinch in, like it's going to cause the curve to be, if you've got a bigger sleeve, you're going to see it clearly. My sleeve is not that big, but it's going to make the sleeve bulge at the edge before the cuff. That's what we're doing. So more on the sleeve, less on the cuff, more on the sleeve, less on the cuff. I just find it easier that way. You can use whatever method you're used to, but yeah, that's what I've been using for years, like I said. You're just going to keep sewing like this until you get to the next marker. Yeah, then you continue sewing. Basically, when you get to the next marker, make sure you take the marker off. Then you keep sewing, just continue the motion of more on the sleeve, less on the cuff, more on the sleeve, and less on the cuff. And you're going to sew this till you've attached the entire cuff to the sleeve. Yeah, so this is called cinching in. That's how I've called it. I'll make sure I'll leave that tutorial mentioned down in the description box just in case you're confused. But if you want me to make a new tutorial very clear and a separate one, let me know as well down in the comment section. So sew around the entire cuff. Then when you get to the end, you're just going to secure the yarn, tuck in the excess yarn, then you're going to cut off the excess yarn. Yeah, I'm always using clippers. I never know where I keep my scissors. Yeah. So this is what it looks like. Make sure you tuck in all the excess, but this is what a cinched sleeve looks like. I'm going to turn the side so you can see. Okay. Yeah, so this is what it's looking like, nice and close. And this is what the other sleeve is. This is what it's looking like in my hand. As you can see, it's a nice fit. So here I'm just showing you guys the difference in like size of the sleeves, you know, how cinched in it looks and how big that sleeve is, just in case you wanted to see. So go ahead and do the same thing that I've done for your second cuff, and I'm going to meet you back. So this is what both cuffs look like stitched together. And next part of our tutorial, now that we're done with the wrist ribbing, we are going to start on the bottom ribbing right now. So you just go ahead and flip your project to the bottom. Now the bottom ribbing is quite straightforward. Just go ahead and attach your yarn at the bottom of your project, of your sweater, of your cardigan. Attach your yarn at the bottom. Then you're going to chain 2. Then you're just going to work double crochets into every stitch. So when you go into a chain, like a cluster of double crochets, you do 3 double crochets into the 3 stitches into the chain 1 space. You do 1 double crochet into the next clusters of granny stitch. You do 3 double crochets. So you're just double crocheting across the entire bottom ribbing. Okay, just go ahead and repeat the same pattern. When you get to a join, that is a space between one granny square and another granny square, you're going to do 1 double crochet into the chain 2 space, 1 double crochet into the join, and 1 double crochet into the next chain 2 space. So yeah, I'm already at the end. Yeah, so this is what it looks like. I'm just showing you guys the 1 double crochet into the chain 2 space, the 1 double crochet in the join, and the next double crochet in the chain 2 space. Okay, so we want the bottom of the cardigan to be a little bit cinched in. Yeah, so I'm just going to work the rest of the double crochets. Right, when you're done with all the double crochets, you're going to chain 2, turn your work, and we are going to do the same thing that we did with the cuffs. Yeah, we're doing the front and back post ribbing. So I'm starting with the front post right here, and then a back post double crochet, and then a front post double crochet, and a back post double crochet. You're just going to do that all around the bottom ribbing of your cardigan. You can do a single crochet ribbing, you can do a separate ribbing and attach it the way we did with the cuffs. You can do whichever way you want it, but this is just how I prefer to do it. So front and back post double crochets, and I did this for a total of 6 rows as well. Yeah, I do 6 rows of front and back post double crochet. So I'm going to meet you at the end when I am done with all 6 rows. Right, so this is what six rows of ribbing, bottom ribbing looks like. I'm just going to chain 1 and end the row. Yeah, I'm finishing with the last front post double crochet. This is actually a very beautiful looking ribbing. Chain 1 and I'm going to cut it off, and bam. So I prefer, and I think this is the right way to do it, doing the bottom ribbing before the middle ribbing of your cardigan. I just prefer to do it that way. It just makes more sense to me, especially if I decide I want to put buttons, and I decided to put buttons for this. So this is the length of my ribbing. It is 2 inches. Yeah. Okay, now that we're done with the bottom ribbing, let's get to the middle ribbing. And the middle ribbing, we're going to start it off the same way we started the bottom ribbing. I'm just going to attach my yarn right there at the edge. Yeah, and I'm going to start doing double crochets around the entire thing. So for the double crochets I'm going to start with at the ribbing, since I did 6 rows of the ribbing here, I'm going to have 12 stitches of double crochet. So into every row of the bottom ribbing, I'm going to put 2 double crochets. I hope that makes sense. So right there I have my 1 double crochet. Into that same row, I'm going to put another double crochet. I'm going to move on to the next row and put in 2 double crochets into the next row of the bottom ribbing, like so. Then into the next row, I'm going to put 2 rows of double crochets again. I hope it's making sense. Just go into each of the rows of the bottom ribbing and put 2 double crochets. Then when you get into the granny squares, now we're just going to repeat what we started the first row, what we did for the first row of the bottom ribbing. We're going to put 1 stitch into the chain 2 space, 3 stitches into the granny stitch, into the chain 1 space, 1 stitch again, and we are just going to repeat the same thing around the entire front. Yeah. Oh my god, I didn't know this video was going to get too long like this, and I don't really like making videos in parts. Let me know that in the comment section if you prefer like a part 1 and part 2 of tutorials. Let me know. Let me know so I can change it next time. I can do 2 parts instead of 1 long part like this. Okay, yeah. So as you can see, I'm into the chain 1 space, I'm putting a double crochet. Into the granny stitches, I'm putting 3 double crochets. So I'm going to do that for the entire cardigan. Now we're just repeating what we did for the bottom ribbing. So you're going to do, this is the first row, yeah. We're going to do, the second row is going to be a row of front post double crochets. Front post double crochets, front and back post double crochet. Then the third row, I am going to put the buttonholes in the third row. So I'm going to meet you when I'm starting the third row of this project. Right, so right here I am starting row number 3 of my ribbing. So I am going to grab my measuring tape here, and I am going to leave a distance of 1 inch from the bottom of my ribbing to have my first buttonhole. Then from the first buttonhole at the bottom, I'm going to do 3 inches to the next one, and I'm going to separate all of them by 3 inches. I hope that makes sense. Right here I'm just working in regular front and back post double crochets until I get to the stitch which has my stitch marker. I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to skip that stitch. At first I tried chaining 2. I was going to skip 2 stitches, but then I tried putting the buttons through the hole and it was just slipping through, and it was too big. Basically it was slipping out too quickly, so I had to unravel it like you see me do in the clip. And I just did like 1 stitch, then skipped 1 stitch, then into the next stitch I just did my, the front post. Yeah, so I still skipped the stitch before the stitch marker, then I put into the front post into the next one. So yeah, you can go ahead and count the number of stitches between each hole to make sure that they're equal. I think I had 14. Each of my buttonholes were separated by 14 stitches, so you can go ahead and count yours. So I'm just repeating the same thing. I'm going to front and back post double crochet till I get to the next hole that I marked. So I ended up marking like 4 spots, but I ended up putting like 3 buttons. Yeah, so repeat the same process. Chain 1, skip 1 stitch, then go into the next one, whether it be a front or a back post double crochet. Now when you're done making all the buttonholes, you're just going to do regular front and back post double crochets throughout the entire side. Then you're going to come back and you're going to continue. You're going to turn your work, continue and do the front and back post double crochet. I'm going to show you guys what to do when you get to the buttonholes when you're coming back for row number 4, because this is row number 3 here. When you're coming back for row number 4, I'm going to show you, just basically put a stitch into the chain 1 that you made for the hole. That's what you do. Okay, put in a stitch there, the stitch that was supposed to be there, you're just going to put it in. This is what the holes look like. So here I'm just counting the stitches to make sure that they're nice and equal. And yeah, I'm going to meet you guys back. Now this is what I mean when you get to the hole, when you've gone back and you get to the hole. Like I said, this is row number 4. You're just going to make a double crochet over that inside that hole. and that's it. You just continue doing your normal front and back post double crochets with no harm done. Okay, then you go ahead and do row number 5. Depending on how thick you want your front ribbing to look like, you can do row number 5, but just make sure that whichever number of rows you want to do, your buttonhole should be in the middle of the row. So I advise that you do an odd number of front ribbing rows. You do 5, so that you do row number 1 and 2, the buttonhole is in row number 3, then you do 4 and 5 to cover up. I hope that made sense. Like for me, I ended up with 5 rows. This is me just cutting off everything, and yeah, that's what it's looking like. Now we're going to sew in the buttons, and make sure that you've matched up the buttons to the buttonholes wherever you're placing them. This is how I just sew my buttons. I just go from bottom to top, then I do like a cross sewing. Yeah, I do like the X cross, then I go back to the bottom, then go back to the top, then go back to the bottom as many times as you want. Then I make sure that I leave that long thread when I start here. Then when I want to end my work, I just tie it off with I tie the longer side with the shorter side, and yeah, that's it for sewing buttons for me. It's not like a tedious thing. So tie it, cut off all the ends, and you're going to tuck in whatever is left out at the corner. So yeah, as you can see, our button fits. You're going to do the same thing for each and every one of the buttons you intend to put on yours.
Okay, so that's it for that tutorial. Tell me what you think there in the comment section. I hope you guys liked it. If you have any questions, down in the comment section. Follow me on my TikTok and Instagram. Links will be down in the description box as well. And yeah, right, I hope that you guys keep on praying, do not stop praying. Read your Bible, keep praying, read your Bible, and stay as close to God. Try to form a relationship with Him. Call on Him, He is going to answer you. Yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching, and I'm going to see you guys in my next video. Bye.